Good evening, nice to be back with you with Adelaide's first hour of news. In tonight's bulletin, work gets underway on Adelaide's controversial Oban bus system, another Hare Krishna invasion of Rundle Mall, and movement thumbed their noses at the Adelaide City Council again today in their most determined effort yet to win the right to sing and preach in the mall. But as Russ Diggins reports, the devotees' only brush with the law was having their names taken.
Today's chanting session for the Krishnas was a bit noisier than normal, but then that's the way they wanted it. This was more a demonstration than a religious observance. It was almost a taunt to the City Council to take action. Action that would have been dutifully recorded, by the way, by a full turnout of Adelaide's media. After last week's arrests, the Krishnas are even more determined to press on with their campaign for free access to the mall. And apart from the efforts of a brave female parking inspector, today's march went on unhindered.
We'll not refrain, we'll not refrain.
The Krishna's leader, Kripa Das, says they're not going to give up.
Well, we're going to chant for a couple of hours, and we'll be chanting as often as we like, which is twice, 3 times a week. We have just as much right to come out here and preach our religion as the shopkeepers have got to push their commodities on the people.
Do you think the Krishnas should be allowed to preach in the mall?
Yeah. Why not? I think everyone should be allowed to say what they think.
Excuse me, do you think the Krishnas should be allowed to preach in the mall?
Sure they should. It's a free country.
I think every man, every woman, every child should have the right to say what they believe in, whatever it is.
Excuse me, girls, do you think the Krishnas should be allowed to preach in the mall?
No.
Why not?
Oh, because when you go in town, you don't really want to hear people just banging around and dancing and calling out their God or whatever.
You don't think it adds some colour to the mall?
No, not really.
No, I don't think they should be allowed to preach, no.
Why not?
Well, I think preaching should be done at church. I think that's the best place for it.
Well, with all the interest in the Krishna movement at the moment, what are the movement's aims and philosophies? Is it a religion, or is it some weird cult or sect? Russ Diggins spent a day with the Krishna devotees in New South Wales to find out. His special report later in the be able to tell you what the movement stands for or what its aims are. But as the Adelaide City Council's quickly finding out, whatever the motives may be, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is here to stay. It has a congregation in Australia numbering into the thousands, and as Russ Diggins found out, Krishna devotees take their religion very seriously.
Krishna temples around Australia go through this ceremony every morning. It isn't a prelude to a sex or drug orgy as many Australians think, nor is this some weird Jonestown cult. This noisy call to God is as strict in its observance as a Catholic Church High Mass. The Krishnas praise God with a fervour that would make some traditional churchgoers wince.
The blessed Lord said,
The blessed Lord said,
Yes.
Yes.
I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations.
I will tell you of my splendorous manifestations.
Basically, it's a Hindu outlook in religion, and they emphasize the superiority of Krishna as being the most important of the whole pantheon of Hindu gods.
I wouldn't like to put our religion above any other religion, but we're personally finding on an individual basis, and I think I speak for everyone, that it does give us all individual satisfaction and happiness and helps us appreciate our relationship with God.
Krishna is a god. He is the embodiment of the love of God. And the devotee of Krishna endeavours to bring about a personal relationship between him or herself and God.
Krishna devotees treat the body and nature as temples to God. That means sex only for procreation, no alcohol, tea, coffee or drugs, no gambling and no meat. They're hardworking and industrious. Near Wentworth in New South Wales, they've taken over the 26,000-acre farm Old Warracoo. Its new name, New Gaudadesh.
First of all, I'm going to do 750 acres first class, and then if I've got more time between then and seeding, then I'm going to work up more land. But if I try because it has to be, some of the ground might even have to be ploughed 3 times because it's so rough.
6 years ago, William Horsfall was a New Zealand farmer. Now known as Gaudadesh Das, he calls Krishna's name 16,000 times a day. He and other devotees do it as a mark of humility. So too is the bald head and the dress. And that tuft of hair is a badge of office. Gaudadesh experience with traditional religion is typical of devotees.
Traditional religion isn't satisfying. There's many people going to church every Sunday and confession on Wednesdays, but still they're not satisfied with their lives. I mean, I know from my own experience working as a farmer beforehand, you may work very hard, but to find that actual real satisfaction that you're looking for is practically, it's like a donkey with a carrot out in front of it. You never actually quite get there. But in Krishna consciousness, actually, you find that satisfaction that you're looking for.
25 devotees also live on the farm. Apart from growing wheat, they grow vegetables, experimenting with everything from bananas to avocado. They keep horses, and soon they'll be keeping oxen too, teaming them with ploughs to return to their ancient agricultural methods so common to their eastern culture. They're renovating the old Warriku homestead. Like that given their temple in Melbourne, they hope for a National Trust classification. With that sort of quiet persistence, it's easy to understand their determination to preach their alternative to our Western lifestyle. They say the Christians have preached in India for centuries. Now it's the Hindus' turn to preach here. And in Adelaide, that means singing in the mall.
Well, we're going to take this issue to its limits because we feel very strongly about our right for freedom. And I think a lot of Australians do. We cherish our freedom, our democracy, and why can't the Hare Krishnas have that same freedom and democracy?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna.
That's special insight into the Hare Krishna movement from Russ Diggins.
From Rundle Mall again this morning in defiance of a City Council ban. Last week, 7 sect members were arrested for shuffling through the mall, but today the police took a low profile over the whole affair and no arrests were made. Chris Bishop reports.
Around 40 members of the sect arrived as promised in Rundle Mall at 11 o'clock this morning and began to snake their way through shoppers in a show of strength against what they call religious persecution and a denial of civil liberties. On Tuesday last week, several members were arrested after being asked by police to disperse. A City Council inspector attempted to take the names of those taking part in today's procession while police looked on from a discreet distance. The whole affair was described as more of a demonstration than a normal Hare Krishna march. Several supporters carried placards. Women and children also joined in. No arrests were made. Police kept a close eye on several sect members who are on bail after last week's arrests. Apparently they didn't break bail conditions.